Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137. Here's your forecast for Friday, September 29th and Saturday, September 30th. So Friday in the clear under partly sunny skies, slight chance of rain showers early and hazy. High around 50 degrees, winds south shifting east at 5 to 20 miles per hour, possibly becoming light and variable at times. Friday night in the clear under partly cloudy skies, slight chance of rain showers and hazy. Low in the lower 40s with winds east shifting northeast at 5 to 20 miles per hour, possibly becoming light and variable at times, increasing to 15 to 30 miles per hour. Wind chill falling to 30 to 40 above. Now Saturday will be in the clear under partly sunny skies, looks really nice, with a high in the upper 40s. Winds northeast at 15 to 30 miles per hour. And there is a warning here that this haze will continue to impact air quality in the region from distant wildfires. And they will be contained within the area of high pressure currently resting over New England. So there's just a warning here for folks that do have respiratory issues to be careful and to perhaps limit prolonged exposure to the outdoors if necessary. All right, enjoy the weekend.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
Okay, Stomp, episode 123, 123. Here we go.
123.
123.
These are weird numbers. This reminds me, a couple episodes ago, I wanted to say something about 120. And 60 beats per minute is 1 beat per second, and 120 is 2 beats per second. And that's a very common tempo in music, pop music and electronic music. 123, a little bit faster.
Yep. 123. That's our episode. So welcome, Stomp. I pulled my quad today running.
Oh, come on, really?
Yeah, very weird. Just running on the local trail that I run on all the time today, and I literally just like tweaked my toe a little bit, sort of pointed my foot down just a tiny bit, and I felt this like sharp pain in my quad. So I just walked it off a little bit, and then I was able to run back, but I shut it down mostly and just ran very lightly back. So I think I'm going to take a day or two off. But getting old, any little tweak that's outside the norm can result in a major injury, apparently.
Yeah, no kidding. Or overuse. You know, you might think about trying some other activities.
Blasphemy.
I know. Well, so is it down by your patella, your kneecap?
No, up on my thigh.
Oh, it's like in the middle, the muscle belly. That's interesting.
Yeah. Huh. So we'll see how it goes here. But all right. And then I have my, I got a little bit of a ribbing from somebody. So I've got my words that shall not be said written in front of me in my notebook here. So I'm going to try to be a real professional broadcaster today.
Good luck.
I was told that I say like too many times and I sound like a teenage girl.
Yep, we're still struggling with that. I'm still saying too much.
And a teenage girl told me this, so I've got to believe her. My lovely children are so nice. Anyway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so welcome to episode 123 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we talk about all things hiking and search and rescue related in New Hampshire. This week we enter fall, and it is foliage season, so Stomp is going to give everyone a refresh on his fall foliage tips for October as we enter into what better be a spectacular leaf peeping season given how much rain we've received over the summer. We'll have the trails, the drives, and the secret spots to check out to avoid the crowds and find the views. All this plus a Xylo the cat update, a history segment, a mystery segment, and a hiking drama segment, Stomp. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah. I haven't done that in a while.
All right. For the history segment, we're going to learn about Benjamin Ball of Ball Crag fame on Mount Washington. For the mystery, we're going to learn about the strange disappearance of Kevin Race on Mount Washington. I think we've touched on it before, but we're going to do a deep dive on this one. And for the hiking drama, we're going to discuss the 32 Feet Up family who are currently on the Appalachian Trail. So this is a family of like 15 or 16 people that are hiking the AT. And it's a cool story, but there's a little bit of drama around it. So we're going to break that down. And wait, there's more. Taylor Swift breaks the NFL. The Bachelor is letting elderly people compete. And we've got recent search and rescue news. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started. And we're just going to have a quick word here from our sponsor, the Hiking Buddies.
This is Ben Pease from Hiking Buddies. We are a 501c3 nonprofit committed to reducing avoidable tragedies through education, impactful projects, and fostering a community of support. You can find out more at hikingbuddies.org. We wanted to say thank you to those who have supported our mission, and most importantly, say thanks to those who speak up, who ask questions, and who are willing to provide guidance and assistance on the trails when needed. You embody what it means to be a hiking buddy. And now, for all my newer hikers out there, here's this episode's Hiking Buddies Quick Tip.
Wrapping some duct tape around your trekking poles to have in an emergency situation is an excellent idea. Duct tape can be used to secure splints, repair tents, rips, tears, and other problems with your gear. It's a great item to add to any pack anytime.
Excellent. Thank you, Hiking Buddies, for your word.
Yeah, it's good tips. Definitely helpful.
It sure is. It sure is. So Stump, we kind of like dropped the ball on guests this week. So we're going to be doing a longer sort of topic riff housekeeping section here where I'm going to cover a history segment and a mystery segment, and then we're going to get into the fall foliage, which will be our main segment. Right. So if you're listening here, just buckle up. This is going to be a longer than normal segment.
'Tis the season, fall foliage.
'Tis the season here. So I got my beer, I'm cracked, and I'm ready to go. So first thing here, Stump, you had on the list, you wanted to read an email about Portsmouth High Outing Club is looking for gear donation. Is this Portsmouth, New Hampshire?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so this came into our email, and it says, "Hey, Mike. Hey, Stomp. My name is Amanda Gaudreau. I am a science teacher at Portsmouth High School. My colleague, Tara Murray, and I, co-advisors for the Outing Club at PHS. This is a club that allows us to chaperone student day hikes, backpacking trips up in the Whites. Tara has been leading this group for a long time, and I am new, but we have noticed that we do not get as many students to sign up because they don't have enough access to gear. So hiking gear can be expensive. we have come up with the idea to do a gear drive where hikers can donate used gear they do not need anymore for our students to use. So, long story short, we're wondering if you would be able to plug the information about the drive in your next episode. And I have attached the flyer, which I'll post again on Friday for the listeners. And it has all the information. There'll be drop-offs at favorite rest stop, the Common Man in Hooksett on Columbus Day. Still waiting for approval there, but I should hear back soon. I have also attached my receipt for my donation to the New Hampshire Outdoor Council, and I have been meaning to donate for a while, so that's very cool, Tara and Amanda. We will certainly plug this and give the information to the listeners. It's definitely a cool endeavor for sure, and it's something that we probably don't think enough when we talk about trying to get people up to access the whites. It's like, who has the gear and who doesn't? So this is very cool. Glad to help.
Yes, and I have some extra backpacks that I've been cleaning out my gear closet, so I'm going to donate those. Stomp, if you could just put the link in the script, I'll make sure that I include that in the show notes as well.
Sure. It's actually a picture of their flyer, so I'll try to send that to you. I think the link is on the picture itself.
Okay, perfect.
I'll dig it up.
Yep, I'll get it on the show notes.
All right.
Very good. That's a great idea. And then, Stomp, isn't there another, doesn't Reckless have a gear closet as well for winter hiking?
It's a gear library.
Gear library, yep.
Correct. Yeah, gear library. Pretty neat idea. Yeah. Yep.
So that may not be
pretty well stocked.
A bad idea if anybody is looking to, in the Seacoast region, if you wanted to create a gear library as well, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But anyway, we'll help out the Portsmouth High School Outing Club and see what we can do to get you guys more gear.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can take the kids up to Mount Agamenicus or whatever it is. I used to chaperone my kids' field trips there and go hiking, and it was always fun. It was like herding cats.
Impossible.
Speaking of herding cats.
Oh, yes.
Pick it up, Stomp.
Poor Xylo. He lost something very important today, and we don't have to go into details, but I guess he lost his cathood. He is a boy, but let's just say he's lost a couple ounces. So he's had a rough day, Mike.
Do cats get neutered, or is it like neutered is like the term you use for when a male cat gets, or a male animal gets fixed, right?
Correct.
So Xylo lost his balls. I feel like, was there a story behind that where you guys thought that Xylo was a girl, but then
right, and then all of a sudden these two little things.
You were not going to allow him in the house or something?
Well, no, we were not really sold a false bill of advertising with this female cat, but it ended up being a boy cat. Apparently the testicles drop after several weeks after they're born, so they legitimately just thought it was a female cat, but not the case.
All right, well, good luck, Xylo.
Speaking of balls.
Yep, speaking of balls, so when I saw the script here, I was inspired. I wanted to do a history segment, and I have what I do, just a little inside baseball for the listeners, is I have like a long list of like names and topics and stuff that I keep around, like interesting characters for the whites. And every once in a while, if I need a segment or if I'm thinking about doing a history segment, I'll just pick something. And then I saw that Stomp wrote Xylo lost his balls today in the script. So I was like, I'm going to do a quick segment on Benjamin Lincoln Ball.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
If you've hiked Mount Washington, probably a lot of people don't go this way, but if you go down, the way that I've done this before is I've summited and then gone down via Nelson Crag. And I think the first small summit that you go over when you're on Nelson Crag is called Ball Crag, and it's named after Benjamin Lincoln Ball. So if you're going up the auto road, Stomp, it's, that section at the very end before you get to the little, the little flat section before the summit?
Yeah, the pasture.
Yeah. Well, right before that is that steep sort of 90-degree turn that's super steep and goes up. Like when you get to the top of that, and then you turn to the right to go back to that sort of flattish area below the summit. If you look to your left, you'll see Ball Crag is like a small little summit right there.
Little sub-peak, gotcha.
Exactly. So Benjamin Lincoln Ball was a traveling dentist from Harvard. So he was one of these gentlemen who would, tour around the whites, and I think he went to like Asia as well. So he wrote 2 books. One about Asia and one about New Hampshire. So he was one of these educated people. So he was a dentist, a traveler, whatever. So he found himself in a bit of trouble while climbing Mount Washington in like the 1850s. I think it was like 1855. And he wrote a book about this. So he actually hiked Mount Washington like the end of October in 1855. So obviously the weather, we've heard so many stories about people getting in trouble in late October in the whites. So this was another scenario where back then I don't think the auto road was fully complete. I think that they had already sort of built everything up to the halfway point. They had like the Glen House there. He had made his way up to the Glen House and then had decided he was going to go all the way to the summit. I don't think the auto road was there. I think that they were like still dealing with like footpaths back then. And I think, didn't you like at one point you found like one of those old paths from the halfway point of the auto road?
The original carriage road, which diverts, it can be followed just after the 4-mile marker. And it's used currently as the winter route for the snowcats.
Yeah, got it. So I don't even know if that original carriage road was built yet, but somehow Benjamin Lincoln Ball, he found himself trying to summit, and just at the point where he started heading up from the Glen House, he got caught in a storm. So he wrote a book basically covering the whole story called 3 Days in the White Mountains, and it's available for free. So you can actually read this book. It's pretty cool. It was published in like the 1860s, and it's Library of Congress has it, and you can go online. I'll include the link in the show notes. And he describes in great detail his 3 days trapped on the mountain in late October. And essentially, he was over in that area for a lot of it, like just below the summit, kind of in that area where the auto road is, near that pasture. He had sort of laid down. He had some equipment. I think he had like an umbrella and some other like walking stick and things like that he was able to kind of protect himself a little bit with. But by the time they found him 3 days later, again, they put out a search party for him and eventually had found his footprints in the snow. Yeah. A group of locals had found him. There was like 4 or 5 locals. They took him down. His feet and hands were frozen. Luckily, he didn't end up losing any limbs, but probably would have if he was out there any longer. But it's an interesting
that's a long
story.
time.
Yeah. 3 days out there in the 1800s with that gear.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder if his clothing was wool-based or... I mean, a lot of the hikers back then wore a lot of just thick wool.
Yeah, I think that was mostly what his gear was. So he did have boots. I know that. He talked about in his book about removing the boots and things like that. He said he recovered okay, but he was a bit of a character. But yeah, it's called 3 Days on the White Mountains, and it's an interesting read. I didn't read the whole thing yet. I didn't read the appendix yet, but he's got some summary stuff. But I did read most of the rest of the book, so I'll include that in the show notes. It's worth checking out.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
There's so many stories out there. We keep on coming across new ones all the time.
Yeah. And I think this happened pretty close to where there was like some other deaths on Mount Washington. So I think the locals in that particular time frame were sort of on alert that there was a bunch of, travelers coming up and getting themselves in trouble. So I suspect after the 1850s, they had enough incidents where they sort of were a little bit more aggressive with the non-locals to tell them to knock it off. But this guy was quite a character.
Well, speaking of rescues, we have the Rescue Me 5K coming up November 11th in Lincoln. There is a Team SLASR now, which you can sign up for, and this is just a benefit that's helping Lakes Region Search and Rescue. It starts at 10. I believe the race starts at 10, ends at 12, and there'll be after celebration at One Love. This is the day that we're having our November 11th live event at Reckless that afternoon into evening, but there should be plenty of time to overlap for everybody.
Have you scoped out the course yet? Where's the course?
It looks fairly level. It starts right there in that parking lot, and then it appears to meander towards, say, Whale Tail.
Okay.
And then it comes back in and around some of the back roads of Lincoln. So it doesn't look too difficult.
Okay.
That's, 3.1 miles?
Yeah. Well, I'm signing up, Stomp, so let's do this.
Right, yeah. There are 4 or 5 people that have signed up already for the team. So this would be a nice time.
That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Originally, I was like, you told me about it, and I was like Lakes region, and I thought it was going to be over in like Meredith or one of those areas, and I was immediately somebody's got to tell Stomp like we're going to be climbing mountains because it's very hilly there. But I think Lincoln's a little more gentle.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Excellent. So looking forward to that, Stomp. What do you think you're going to run for a time?
That's a good question. Maybe 45, 50 minutes, maybe less.
No, you'll be way faster than that.
Because of the levelness? Yeah, maybe you're right. I just don't want to overdo it, to be honest with you.
True.
Yeah.
We'll see.
My
we'll see how it goes.
My first few miles up on a road were 15, but that was elevation. So, yeah, who knows? I don't know. I've never done a race like this.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Rule number 1, don't poke yourself with the pins when you put your number on.
I'll deflate. Can't do that.
Yes. All right, Stomp. So you have a shout out for somebody who did a photography session for Xylo. What is this? Like, what kind of nonsense are you up to with this cat?
Well, this photographer was inspired by the explanation as to Xylo's name, which dates back to or translates back to wood in ancient Greek. And he took some photos and came up with this beautiful image and actually named it Xylo. But I just want to shout out the fact that he's sending a print to me and Mr. Stomp, and I just think that's really cool. So it's Mike Weinhold Photography, and we'll give you the link on Instagram. His work is beautiful, and once we receive the print, we'll certainly let you see what it looks like. It's a very nice picture.
Yeah, I went on his Instagram. He's got some great photos on here, and I love the Xylo piece as well. So he's got some really good ones. He's got this picture that I really like. I always do this. I take pictures with the cairns when I'm above tree line.
Yeah,
I try to place them in the forefront of the photo because I do feel like it gives like perspective on looking out, and he does that in one photo, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Excellent, Stomp. So Xylo, world famous.
Sure is.
We're about to serve up some tasty hiking drama.
All right, so next up we got the drama piece that I was talking about. So Stomp, have you heard about this group of people? They're called 32 Feet Up.
No, I have not.
And they are a single mom and her 15 kids hike the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
So it's a 46-year-old single mom with 15 kids that range in age of 23 to 3.
Wow.
And they are all biological from one marriage. I guess the wife, or the mother and the father split up a year or two ago, and I think it's been tough on the kids. So the mom, her name is Nikki Bettis. She decided that she wanted to take her family for a through hike. So they're local to Virginia. I think they've been poking around the AT, McAfee Knob in that area. So she had it in her head. She was like, well, let me see if I can get the kids together to do this through hike. So it sounds like the mom's got this dream, and she's like dragging the kids along with it.
Well, you know what's funny about this? The dad would have to approve this because clearly they're crossing state lines, and generally you have to get permission from the other parent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They don't give any details about what the deal is with the divorce, or what they did say. I think what I read was that they were separated. So maybe if they're not legally divorced and they're only separated, maybe there's less stipulation there. But it's also I think from what I can tell, there's 5 adult children and then 9 minor children. But I don't know, maybe this guy is just like so goddamn exhausted that he's like, just go.
Yeah, good luck.
Right. So
what are the deets?
Anyway, so just to give a little bit more background, so she started having children at the age of 23, and she's now 46, and she's got 15, so she's got, it looks like 10 boys and 5 girls, and she homeschools the kids. So apparently the 2 older ones went to regular school, but eventually she just got tired of sending them to regular school, and the kids got all sick, so she just decided to homeschool them. So they do like a Montessori style curriculum, and none of the 13 youngest kids have ever set foot in a traditional school. And apparently she says that she has no plans to homeschool the kids during the hike because the trail is in and of itself school enough. Oh. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
They started in Georgia. They did hike the majority of the trail up to the Smokies, and they bypassed the Smokies. Now, the way I heard about this group originally was that there was like some chatter online saying that like the mom had posted, and she's like, we hit like the 400-mile mark or whatever. And then somebody was like, well, you skipped the Smokies and you didn't really do 400 miles. And then she had to send out a correction. So there's a bunch of chatter about like the purist online being like, hey, they're not doing a real through hike because they haven't gone through all the sections. And then they're saying like, well, we're going to go back and do the Smokies. We just weren't ready for it at the time. So
fair enough.
I don't know. Anyway, so it's basically with what they're doing, like it's not a complete through hike, but the mother does like to give sort of updates on all the mileage, and then it seems like the online social media crowd likes to sort of make sure that they nitpick it and correct it. So there's been a little bit of tension when it comes to whether or not this is a pure through hike or they're skipping sections. So there's that piece of it, and then the other piece of it is that there are little kids here. There's a lot of them. There are 5 adults. There's 2 dogs, as best I can tell. And there's an article here where a couple of the kids talk about how they hate hiking, and the only reason they're doing it is because they're forced to do it. Which is kind of like, okay, well, if the kids are miserable, and you're forcing them out there, that's not cool.
Interesting. It reminds me of that movie Captain Fantastic, where they're off the grid and
yeah, it's a great movie.
Learning by nature. Yeah, it really is. But the kids weren't too happy at certain points.
Yeah. And then the family, so this trail, I'm referencing an article in the Trek here. So this section here is Out Come the Trolls. From the moment they set foot on the approach trail, the hiking community took notice. Word of the huge family attempting to through hike spread on social media like wildfire, and caused a bunch of rumors and accusations. So people have accused the family of damaging the trail each night when they camp because of the large group size.
Huh.
I got to be honest, Stomp. If I was at a tent site and like 15 kids rolled in, I'd be like, oh man, please don't set up near me.
Oh, can you imagine? So
yeah.
So where are they right now?
They just made it through the Whites. So they're in Mahoosic. They're through the Mahoosic. They're in the Mahoosic right now, I think.
Holy moly. Because I was going to ask, winter's coming quick.
Yeah,
tree
clock's
line.
Ticking.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Clock is ticking. Yeah. So, but anyway, As far as the impact goes, the mom figures that her family of 15 has less of a footprint than the model group. Many of the kids are small. They share tents and they cook communally. Apparently, the Appalachian Trail Commission, or whatever it's called, helped them minimize their trail impact by recommending they set up camps on forest service roads and other open spaces farther from the shelters. So they try to sort of stay away from the shelters, it sounds like.
Interesting.
She's got satellite communication. She's using these Xylo systems, which I see more and more. My friend Tom had one of these. They're essentially these little devices where you can set up and get a satellite link and then connect it through Bluetooth to your phone, and then send a text out. So they've got some.
Sounds like the Defy unit by Motorola.
Some emergency. Oh, another complaint that they talk about in this article is the family takes up all the space in shelters and hostels, and then they eat all the trail magic at hiker feeds, leaving little for other hikers. But the mother's like, they stay away from shelters, they don't inconvenience other hikers, and they don't stay in hostels so they don't bother anybody, and they only allow the kids to take one item of, come on, if you're doing trail magic, it doesn't matter who's there. Whoever shows up gets food.
That complaint's bullshit. I guarantee that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Plenty of people
defending the family.
Oh, absolutely. I do question her intention,
defending the
though.
Duggars.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get inside her head and find out the real motive, unless it is the real motive, just to, I don't know.
I mean, the way I read this is like, I think like 15 kids. She's had 15 kids in like 23 years. So she's basically been just, having kids for the last 23 years. And then she goes through a divorce with this guy that they've been partners forever. I'm sure that she's looking, I think what she said is she's like, this was my last chance to have everyone together with me before they all start spreading out, because the older kids are kind of going to be on their own. So
I wonder if she's got.
I think that's the motivation.
I wonder if he had her sign a nice, hefty life insurance policy.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Go
what
ahead,
the deal
honey.
is.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, not really sure.
Wow,
so,
that's a wild story.
Another thing is one of the adult daughters, a 20-year-old. She underwent bariatric surgery. So she was 257 pounds before the surgery, and she's gotten down to 175 and continued to lose more weight. And the weight loss has helped her physically with her hiking. And she has completed the Virginia Triple Crown. I don't know exactly what that is, but so one of the daughters, it seems like, is getting in shape. And then overall, like, even though, we're talking about the negatives a little bit here, from a big perspective, or from a big picture perspective, they have gotten a lot of help, and there is a fair amount of support for them. And there's a bunch of little kids here, and it's always good to have them out there, and they're pretty cute. So one of the 17-year-olds, like he's one of the boys. He wrote a blog post recently on Facebook. They mostly on Facebook, and he was like, the haters can screw. He basically said the haters can blank off if they have anything negative to say. So, and he was the one that was like, I hate this and I'm being forced to do it. But he's like, I've come to like it now. So
there you go. Wow.
So, I don't know, Stomp.
Incredible story.
I can barely get one of mine out there. Forget about the whole family.
There'll probably be a payday at the end of this too. I mean, certainly media outlets will be chomping at the bit to interview them. It'll be brief, but it's notable.
I mean, she'll have to jump on her 15 minutes of fame. Right. I don't know. I mean, these families, like, I get it. Like, it's cool and it's great to be together, but I just get weary about these. Like, I think about the Goslings, like the Kate +8. I think about the Duggars. Like, none of those families have ended well. So to put your large family out there on social media like this, especially the younger kids that don't have any say about it, like, I'm always kind of down on that, honestly. Like, I look a little side-eyed at that, especially given that, like, maybe years ago we didn't know any better, but now we're starting to see the impact. Like, those Duggar kids and the Gosselin kids that went through this growing up on social media and in the public, like, they're not doing great.
No, definitely not.
So anyway, but we'll see. They're in Mahoosic Notch, so if you're in Maine, keep an eye out for this army of people hiking through, and I do wish them luck. And, if they can make it to Katahdin, that's great. They still got to do the Smokies, and I don't know if they've missed some other spots or not. So they're doing a sort of a bounce around hike, not a through hike.
Well, they have a good stretch of weather. The next 10 days, the long range looks fantastic, so hopefully that'll hold for them.
Yes. Yeah. So we really do deserve a good stretch of weather here, because it's been awful.
Yeah. Oh man. All right,
Stomp. So so we've done the history, we've done the drama, and now we are going to do the mystery.
Oh, we need a new mystery drop for this.
The mystery, yes. So this is an odd case. So we've talked about, there's 4 well-known missing person cases that I can think of. There's Mara Murray, which we've talked about multiple times. That's not really a hiking-related one. Then the 3 hiking-related ones are the young man from MIT that went missing in 1983 on Franconia Ridge. Then there's Stefan Poratsu, who we've talked about previously. So this is a young man out of Drake at Lowell area that went missing, I think, like 3 years ago under strange circumstances, and he's never been found. And then the 4th one is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Race. So I think I've touched on Kevin's story before, but we haven't done a deep dive on it as far as I can recall. So Kevin Race is an odd case. He disappeared under mysterious circumstances just before he was scheduled to go to court. He was essentially scheduled to go to court 2 days after he had vanished to face charges where he was accused of embezzling nearly $250,000 from a company that he co-founded. Apparently this was like a rope cordage type company. I didn't know there was that much money in rope, Stomp.
Yeah. Did he go kayaking?
Nope, he was hiking. So, yeah, I know. Well, Kevin was, I know, remember that?
Crazy.
So Kevin was last seen alive on September 9th, 2007, I believe, when he left a note at his home saying that he went to New Hampshire looking for his final resting place. So apparently his brother found a suicide note. So family members say that they believe he committed suicide on Mount Washington. His body hasn't been found, and authorities in the initial news stories were wondering if he staged his death to evade criminal charges. Mm-hmm. All right, so the date is September 9th, 2007. Kevin was missing. His car was found at Pinkham Notch. So apparently he had told his girlfriend that he was going for a hike on Mount Washington. He did have an outdoors background. He didn't return home. That was unlike him. The girlfriend took his truck and drove up to Pinkham Notch where she knew he was. At that point, they found his vehicle in Pinkham Notch, and then a search and rescue event was initiated. The news articles at the time say that his last reported sighting was at Hermit Lake Shelter on the morning of September 9th. So he was spotted by somebody at Hermit Lake. Race was described as having blue eyes, brown hair. He's 46 years old. He's 5'11", 195 pounds. So pretty good shape guy. Mm-hmm. And apparently, his girlfriend, kind of tipped off and set off the search here after he didn't come home. So the weekend of the search, there was a thread on the hiking forum, view from the top, right, about Kevin. And the consensus on that forum was that the timing was suspicious. There was a fair amount of jokes and sort of ironic comments around the fact that it was being reported that he was due to show up in court a couple of days before he went missing. So he was facing charges of embezzlement of around $250,000 from his business partner. So the company was out of Maine. So they lived in Maine, and family members fear that he may have been suicidal. Well, the family saying that, authorities were speculating he may have staged his disappearance. So Kevin's younger brother, Brian, found the suicide note, which was left behind at the house, and he had then also reflected on some conversations that Kevin had where he indicated that he had gone off and visited various locations of like friends and family for the first time in many years. So Brian, the brother, is insisting that Kevin had likely committed suicide and was not the kind of guy to run from his problems, which seems kind of weird because if he did commit suicide, he would be running from his problems, right?
Well, of course. Yeah.
So investigators say that specifically what Race was doing was he was writing checks and using the company credit card to embezzle this money. This all happened over a 5-year period, and the company was called Custom Cordage, which is a Maine company that he started with his partner named David Bird. So Kevin and David were partners. Race's lawyer claims that this was a simple dispute over the distribution of assets. So I don't know if they were selling the company or one of them was exiting, and they were arguing over ownership or funds. But whatever Bird did, he was able to get a court case and charges filed for embezzlement. And then eventually Bird went on to file a civil suit in 2008 after Race had gone missing, and he upped the loss amount to over $500,000 stolen between 2002 until the time of his disappearance. So
that's a lot.
Once they started digging, they found even more money missing.
Right. I think everybody has their breaking point. I mean, his brother may think he couldn't do something like that, but maybe he doesn't know that breaking point. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some more interesting stuff here. So just before I get to that, a note about the weather that weekend. So unfortunately, in the news article, the weather had not been cooperating. So there's a Lieutenant Gralensky who was quoted. He had said that the mountaintops had been shrouded in rain and clouds, making search efforts slow and laborious. So this is early September, so you can kind of get a hit or miss.
Oh, yeah.
You could have summer weather or you could have winter weather. So Lieutenant Gralensky said that they're doing everything reasonable, but without any new clues, it really is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Searchers from the New England Fish and Game Department, Appalachian Mountain Club, Mountain Rescue Services, Androscoggin Valley, the Search and Rescue, New England Canine, and U.S. Forest Service are checking trails and scenic outcroppings in the search area, as well as the forest in the vicinity of the vehicle. Army National Guard is also assisting with aerial searches using a Black Hawk helicopter. So they were rolling out all the stops to find them. Mm-hmm. To add one final piece to this mystery, there was a post on the Unresolved Mystery subreddit. This is on Reddit that went back probably 4 or 5 years, and there was a Redditor that had put up a case summary to give some details. Now, this person that had posted on the Unresolved Mystery sub, he had claimed that he took an EMT basic class with Kevin Race, apparently right before he had disappeared, and he described him as someone who had talked about wanting to join Doctors Without Borders, which is interesting to me. So he's planning to go overseas and help out with this Doctors Without Borders and taking this EMT class.
Right.
So
wow,
interesting. And he said that Kevin explained that he was an avid outdoorsman and that he had a lot of free time because of his successful rope company. And the poster on Reddit had speculated that Kevin was certainly capable of surviving out in the wilderness and gave off an always had a plan vibe, is what he specifically said. So he's like, I feel like this guy definitely could handle himself when it came to getting lost. So I don't know. If he did commit suicide, it sounds like he was probably the type of person that could find a spot that he wasn't going to be found in.
Sure.
But it also seems plausible, if the authorities seem like he thought that he might want to disappear. I mean, the girlfriend finds the car conveniently at Pinkham Notch. The brother finds a suicide note at the house conveniently. You could see either way.
Right.
Maybe he's out there missing, but you could also see he set everything up so that the girlfriend knows to come looking for him if he goes missing. The brother finds that suicide note. He sort of planted some seeds with the family so that they think he's not in the right set of mind, and then he's off in the Caribbean. Maybe he was in Turks.
Could be
what? That guy that drove the boat tour in Turks and Caicos, he was from Boston, gave me a vibe. I don't know. Maybe it was him.
Skipper.
Yes. So
interesting.
But I don't know, Stomp. I mean, the suicide thing is always. It's sexier to think that he's off in a Caribbean island somewhere, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, after this amount of time, if he wasn't hiding, I would think that eventually the gig would be up somehow, some way. I always think it's an eventuality.
You would think, Stomp, but I've heard these stories where people get found after 40 or 50 years of escaping from prison, or maybe no one's looking for him. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, Kevin Race is one of 4 missing people that we that we kind of focus on. Three really that are missing in the White Mountains that haven't been located.
Right.
And again, we've talked about all 3 in the past, but I thought that I would do a little bit of a deep dive on this one because it's an interesting story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kevin Race of Maine. If anybody knows anything more, reach out. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, nice job. Interesting stuff.
Hey, what's that sound? It must be time for the pop culture segment with Mike and Stomp.
Excellent. All right, so moving on to pop culture talk here, Stomp. You've got one thing you want to cover, and I've got 2 breaking stories that I need to break here.
Interesting. Yeah, under pop culture?
Yes.
All right. Well, it looks like
Taylor Swift, and I've got Bachelor news too. You can do yours first.
Okay. Well, it looks like there's some progress being made in the writers and acting guilds in Hollywood. So it seems as though the writers have come to a tentative agreement, which has not been ratified yet. But who knows? It could be a step forward in the right direction. You may see some of your talk shows and late night shows coming back soon. But I guess the pressure now is on the actors. The actors have not agreed to anything at this moment. And I guess a big sticking point is they want a 11% wage increase in the first year of the proposed contract term. So anyway, progress moving. So that's a good thing, I guess.
Yes. Let's get back to making good TV.
Sure. That's all I got.
All right, Stomp. Speaking of good TV here, so The Bachelor. Do you want? This is mostly for Mrs. Stomp, but I feel like you and Mrs. Stomp do get into The Bachelor season sometimes.
We get into those blind ones where you're in the pods and you don't see each other, or some of those new ones.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, they're interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like those, and then they fall in love, and then they meet each other, and
train
I like
wrecks.
That. But anyway, the original one, the OG, The Bachelor. So they've had this been going on for 20 years now. They've finally got a new spin on The Bachelor. This is the Golden Bachelor. So this is coming out, I don't know when. But the Golden Bachelor is old people. So they found like this guy I think these people are all in like their 60s, but honestly, most of them look like they're in their... They're like they have that look. You know that look of old people that look younger than they are, but then they're old?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like I see the advertisement, like they'll have the bodybuilder old guys that are like in their 60s or 70s, but they're ripped.
Yeah.
He looks like one of those guys.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So I want to be one of those guys when I get that age. But anyway, so The Bachelor looks pretty good. I'm assuming he must have some money. And then they got these, whatever, I think it's like 15 or 20 bachelorettes. Mm-hmm. They're all going to be vying for this guy's attention. And the little vignettes that they all like talk about, like, oh, I'm like, whatever, I'm 64. And every one of them's like, I like pickleball. It's kind of funny. Every single one of them's like into pickleball. But all the women look like, so if you look at them from like a wide shot, you're like, oh, they're in their like 20s or 30s or something. And then you get a little bit closer and you're like, okay, they're a little older, but you're not like they're 60 or 70, but they're in their 60s and 70s, but they all look like they're in their like 40s.
Interesting. Huh.
So
a little older demographic. Who puts this show out? What network?
I think it's ABC.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway,
that's probably who's watching.
Golden Bachelor. I mean, honestly, if you're in your 60s or 70s and you're getting roped into going on The Bachelor, like, I don't know if you've learned like life lessons enough to be a serious person at that point, right?
There's a payday too, right?
I don't know.
Yes,
Is there a payday? Is it really worth it?
Oh, yeah. Who knows? Not people who do anything.
I mean, is it worth your dignity?
For some, I'm sure they could care less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sketch.
Anyway, but we'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'm sure that you and Mrs. Stomp will be checking that out.
But I do find it interesting that the demographics older as opposed to the shows on Netflix. It just shows you who's watching these specific networks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the big three networks do skew older, but hey, old people got to find love too. My parents, they live in the villages down in Florida, which is like 100,000 retired people. And, my dad says basically he says like when these, like if a couple, like one of the couples passes away, like there's more women than men out there. So if a woman passes away, like the women are all there with their casseroles, like lining up at the funeral to scope out the available bachelor. Right. So it gets crazy down there.
Isn't this the Notorious Villages or no? Am I thinking of something
the villages,
else?
Yeah, it's notorious. Yeah, they say that like it's the highest place for STDs and all this other stuff, but it's not like that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, at least the part that my parents are in, I think. I don't know.
We have to do a slasher investigation.
Well, I'm going down there, so it's great. I mean, driving around in golf carts, and it's a whole thing down there.
That's too funny.
Yes. So anyway, I don't know. Me and Mrs. Mike may end up down there someday. We'll see. Enough of that, Stomp. Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce from the Chiefs, and the NFL has been broken over the weekend over this story.
What's the deal? I'm not familiar with Travis Kelce. Kelce. So okay.
I can't believe. So you're not into football at all?
Zero, unless it's.
You're not a dude whatsoever. You have no dude characteristics or bro characteristics.
Right. I've never
have
been
into cards.
Do I play cards? Not really.
You like a Thursday night guys card game?
Nope. I missed that whole macho guy team sitting around playing Poker Avenue. I just went off in some other direction.
Really?
Yeah. I'm an oddball.
I'll take you to the card game. Would you be uncomfortable with the card game?
No, I would love to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because Alexandria, Mrs. Stomp, is a shark. She's great at cards.
I get that vibe from her. I get that vibe from her that she'd sit down and smoke us all.
Oh, totally.
I'll let you in on the card game here, Stomp. So anyway, but nothing football, nothing baseball, nothing basketball.
Not really. A little bit of soccer, but I will tune in for the last games of any football season. I love it when it's down to the wire. That's when it catches my interest.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know, Stomp. It's weird. You're very weird because you do fit, like, because Jimmy Chaga is like a bro.
Yeah, he is.
Guy, too. Like, I feel like I got a little bit of that in me, too. But you fit in perfectly with us. So I feel like you're not trying enough. Like, you have the bro characteristics. You just need to work on it.
Yeah, I'm a changeling. I'm a morph. I morph into whatever.
Fit in.
Whatever group I'm in, I can settle in and be comfy.
Is Stomp a bro? We don't know. Anyway, so Taylor Swift is dating this guy, Travis. So Travis Kelce, do you know Rob Gronkowski?
Yes.
So Rob Gronkowski is like the best tight end for the Patriots. So the best way to describe Travis Kelce is he's the Kansas City Chiefs like new version of Gronk. Mm-hmm. Him and his brother have a podcast. They're very like bro culture.
Yeah.
And he had like a reality dating show back in 2016. So anyway, he was able to like reach out to Taylor Swift, and she was playing at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and he reached out. Somehow they connected. He slid into her DMs, and now they're dating. So Taylor Swift, she moves to the let's hang out with my new boyfriend's mom zone very quickly. So she showed up with Travis Kelce's mom in the luxury box for the Chiefs game.
Oh, gotcha.
And now it's all over the news. So that's big pop culture news.
Huh. Oh, man. So Taylor Swift, though, she's got a bad track record.
Oh, she's all over the place. But Stomp, don't let the Swifties come after us. But the Swifties are like, the fans of the Swifties, they're out of their mind. Today, the big thing is that there was like a video that was uncovered where Travis Kelce was practicing with the Chiefs, and he got into a fist fight with like some of the other players. So now all the Swifties are like analyzing this, and they're like, I don't know if it's safe for Taylor to be around somebody that is that violent. So everyone's losing their minds. My daughters are all into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep my mouth shut.
All right. So we learned that Stomp can be a bro, but he's not really a bro.
Mm-hmm.
But that, we're going to invite him to the card game.
Yeah, that sounds good. Mrs. Stomp is actually happy that I'm not the big sports guy. I think she would lose her mind if I was 24/7 on my phone doing whatever the people are doing right now. What's it called? These fantasy leagues.
Fantasy football.
Yes.
Fantasy football. Yeah.
Or like listening to sports talk radio. I mean, she'd probably kill herself. So.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 fantasy football teams, so I'm a little stressed out right now. But anyway, we're learning all about you, Stomp.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
So moving on here. Sponsor? We got a sponsor here?
Nah, we'll do that a little later. But just a couple of reminders. You can get your free SLASR stickers at Ski Fanatics off of exit 28 off of Route 93, or at Spinner's Pizza Parlor off of Dascombe Road, Route 93 in Massachusetts. Reminder, if anybody wants to advertise with the podcast, just send us a message over one of the social medias or email us at SLASRPodcast@gmail.com, and we can show you some nice plans and whatnot. It's always good to support the podcast. We do have a coffee donation, and this is a conditional coffee donation, Mike. All right. And the pressure's on you on this one. Mark donated a single coffee and threatened us that he will not donate another if Mike pronounces Musalak correctly.
I think I saw this. I saw this. So I think he wants me to pronounce it Musalak, right?
I forget how he did it, but I think he parenthesized it and then spelled it out phonetically. But yeah, so he's only going to donate again if you get your act together, I guess, with the pronunciation.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, if you give me money, I'll say it however you want me to. No problem. No problem.
There you go.
I feel like we talked about this very early on, like in episode 2 or 3, where we agreed that Steve Smith had said that you can pronounce Musalak or Musalake.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Neither one is wrong, but it sounds like Mark has an opinion that I should pronounce it a particular way, and I'm happy to pronounce it however he wants to. Just keep the coffees flowing. So Musalak.
Keep the coffee rolling.
Yes.
That's wicked funny.
That's a good one, Mark.
And let's see, beer talk?
Beer talk. I've got... I'm drinking a Treehouse Brewing beer. I'm going to be drinking a lot of these because I have a bunch in my refrigerator, but this is a 35, which is a double IPA, and it is a 7.8% alcohol by volume. These Treehouse beers they kick.
Yeah.
For sure.
Totally.
It's pretty good. It's a double IPA.
All right. I'm just drinking coffee, actually, but I wanted to give a shout out to Grandpa Stomp, who gave me this new beer here. You can see it, Bell's. So it's called, it's Bell's, and it's a double two-hearted IPA by it's a double American IPA, 11%. Bit of a kicker there. And it's pretty tasty, different taste, but it was pretty enjoyable. Actually has a shelf life of 3 months. I've never seen that on a label before. But thank you, Grandpa Stomp, and it's bellsbeer.com, BELLS beer.com.
Yeah, speaking of beer, I think I talked about this in the last episode. So when I was at Yosemite, we had Yosemite Pale Ale, which is an American Pale Ale, and the price there. So everything in California was pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. It's like $6 a gas and whatnot.
Yeah.
The price for the Yosemite Pale Ale was ridiculous. It was like $11.50 for a 4-pack. So it was way cheaper.
Yeah. That's
and
not
the
bad.
beer was fantastic. So that was the one thing that I found in California that was like way cheaper than anywhere else I've seen.
Yeah, it is pretty cheap. Craft beer out here is outrageous.
Yeah, it's expensive. I mean, I think these Treehouse beers were like they're $20 for a 4-pack, so they're $5 a can.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's a little over the top, I think.
It sure is. It's
an expensive habit.
It's for the show. Can I expense this for the show, Stomp?
Sure. Yeah, it's a business. Yeah, I guess.
All right.
I'll talk to the CPA about this.
All right. I didn't even think about that, but okay. Very good. So you're drinking a coffee, but you've got a beer, and then I'm drinking a beer here.
Yeah.
And then recent hike, Stomp. I think we need to get the shame queue up. So I've got nothing. I had to stay home this weekend. Not to mention it was like gross this weekend.
Yeah, I've got nothing either, but I have been running, which is cool. Just hitting the hills locally, trying to get ready for my 5K. And back to the beer thing for a second. I think I'm diving into that Sober October again. FYI, no pressure, but I think I'm going to go in just to trim up again, lose a little weight and pump up the cardio.
Yeah, you're going to polish yourself up a little bit.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'll do that. I'm in.
All right, great.
Well, wait a minute. When are we doing the reckless thing?
Oh yeah, I mean we'll do a waiver for that.
Okay. Oh, that's in November though.
That's the 11th. Actually, yeah, you're right. November 11th. So, yeah, no issues.
Okay. You know what I like about taking a month off too is like those first couple of beers after you start back up again give you the little buzz.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, right. It's so many benefits taking a month off.
Yep. Yeah, I do. That is the one thing I do like. I don't mind paying the $4 or $5 for a beer because you do get a little more of a kick with these heavier IPAs than when I was in high school sneaking Budweisers in the field.
Yep.
Drinking 6 of those, you'd have to get a buzz.
For sure. Yeah, less volume.
All right, Stomp. Notable hikers.
All right. Hey, I really want to thank the listeners for doing a great job with these hikes. So they're getting interesting here. Not that they weren't, but they're getting a little more eccentric, let's say. So we have, I think, 8 here. So little Margaret is still out there. Remember the little one? She's, I want to say she was 5 years old. Just an update on her. She did Monroe in Washington with Dad and Garfield with Dad and their little brother, James. And she's now at 27 out of 48. So she's still out there crushing it. Great job, Margaret.
Is she's the one that did all the 52 with the view already?
Yes, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's crushing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
As long as she's having fun, then go nuts.
Right, exactly. If that big family on the AT wants another little one that can crush peaks and inspire the little ones, it might be a good idea.
Imagine that people like, I just got to get rid of my kid for like a week and I'm just going to dump them with them. They won't even notice.
It's a new business they're offering. Yeah. Hiking. All right. So Nick hikes and plays guitar, did Diamond Hill hike for the Taylor James Steves Foundation, and then also redlining Wachusett. Nick sent an email over and just basically did 10 miles, 3,260 feet of elevation for a total of 7,719 feet for that foundation charitable. 20K is his goal, so good luck. Keep at it. Brady Girl 1. This is really a nice one, too. It's a bushwhack up to Garfield West Peak for the New Hampshire 100 highest list. Mark S. completed 51 and 52 on the 52 with the view list this past Friday, 9/22, with a traverse. Mark. I'm sorry?
Nice job, Mark.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I've got this little echo in my ear. So it was a traverse of South and North Moat on a Bluebird day. North Moat was a truly spectacular summit to finish on, he says. Hiking Feeds My Soul is at 24 out of 48 on the 4,000 footer list, and that was Garfield for Miles the dog's 48, aka Trail Boss. So this dog's out there crushing peaks. Snow Angel tackled North and South Hancock via Tunnel Brook to Moosalaki. 2 more here. Another congratulations. A lot of people finishing these lists. Senior Airman Tenzin Dakar finished the 48th on Mariah after the Carter-Mariah Traverse with the Wildcats mixed in, I believe. And then C. Gothberg. This is great. Really beautiful pictures of sunrise on Moosalok and Hurricane Mountain Loop. And they actually ran into a moose on trail too. So those are your notable hikes of the week. Do any stand out?
The 52 with a view finish.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I'm noticing people hitting peaks that we talk about fairly often. I wonder if we're inspiring folks.
Well, the one thing that piqued my interest was the Garfield West Peak.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always forgotten about that one. I've never gone out there. So is there a view there, or is that just a tree-filled summit?
I think it's tree-filled. I've not been there myself.
Yeah. It's tantalizingly close off the trail, so it seems like it would be a very quick one to hit.
Yeah.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
Now we're going to move into our segment of the week, which is just some fall foliage talk. So I think in episode 23, so 100 episodes ago, we had done a deep dive on fall foliage talk. So I thought that it would be cool to recap some of the topics that we covered there. And then I've hiked some new places since then, so I wanted to add a little bit of perspective on places to go. But I think originally what we had done was we talked about, like, if you're not a hiker and you want to go for some cool foliage drives, we've got some tips for driving, and then we've got some easier hikes, and then we've got some epic hikes. And then Stomp, you had included just some reminders as we get a little deeper into the fall and winter season around safety here.
Right.
So I think to start off with, for drives for me, I had talked about so first of all, I guess the first thing to be aware of is the fall foliage calendar here. So it looks like the calendar is going to be, we're going to be peaking starting this week up north, and then that goes into, I think it's another week and a half or so.
Columbus Day weekend is generally the peak in the central White Mountain region. So that sounds about right.
Yeah, let me just pull this up.
I haven't heard a peep about foliage right now, but I think it's starting to creep in up north.
Yeah, it looks like there's some in the Great North Woods, but then if we tweak it a little bit, and we head up to the first week of October, that's when it's peaking in Great North Woods and then really starting to pop in the White Mountains. And then by the time we get to the 7th and the 8th, then you're talking about, peak 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. That's the White Mountains start peaking, and then the southern regions start really popping. And then as you get into like the end of October, then the Lakes region and Sunapee in that area starts blooming. So sounds like it's going to come on quick here.
Yeah, what's interesting? Earlier today, you've heard the talk about how is the foliage depending on how much rain you've had and this and that during the summer. And I think that's a myth. I couldn't find anything to confirm that. So I don't know what to expect in terms of how vivid the colors will be or how flat they'll be. I know there are some other factors, but rain isn't one of them from what I dug up online.
Oh.
Which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, well, I think for hikers, if you're thinking about this, essentially what you have is you've got 5 weekends. You've got the weekend of the 30th and October 1st, then you've got the 7th and 8th, 14th and 15th, 21st and 22nd, and then the 28th and 29th. And then once you get into November, then things are going to start falling off the trees, and it's not going to be as great, especially up north and in the Whites. But
sure. Except down in Mass.
Past peak.
When do you think the peak is for, say, Mount Greylock or Wachusett? Late October?
Look here, Stomp. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's later in the season.
Yeah, you can just chase it. That's another great area.
Yeah, I do want to get out there. I mean, I went to college out there, and I spent, a number of years out there, but I just haven't been out in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I lived out there in Western Mass, I was such a drunken moron that I just didn't appreciate it. So anyway, but that's the foliage. So we've got 5 weekends for everyone to get their act together. Unfortunately, I'm going to be traveling this weekend again, so I'm not going to be able to go up north, but I'm going to plan on getting up there every weekend in October, Stomp.
There you go.
Yep. That's the plan. And then as far as drives go, so if you want to get in your car and you want to drive around, stay off the Kank. Try to avoid 93 if you can. I had said like an early season drive would be heading up to Grafton Notch via 95 North, head over to Route 26, get up to Newry and Bethel from the Boston area. And, there's a lot of easy pull-offs in that, like Sunday River, Grafton Notch area. You can go as far up as Dixville Notch.
Right.
You can come via Route 5. You can come home down via sort of Route 5, get into Freiburg, and then, stop in Newry, Bethel, Freiburg, Cornish, Maine. There's a bunch of pull-offs up in Grafton Notch, but I basically just what you're doing is avoiding that like center of New Hampshire. You're going up 95 in Maine and then cutting across into Western Maine to get up to Grafton Notch in that area there in New Hampshire. So that's a good drive for early season. And then Stomp, I always talk about like mid-season.
Right.
If you want to go to a cool road to drive on, like the Grafton Turnpike heading up towards like Dartmouth Skiway, you take...
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
You take like 93 to cut over, and then you got to find your way onto like Route 10, 25A. You can connect to Route 3A and drive into Franklin, and then make your way up a Grafton Turnpike towards the Dartmouth Skiway. That's where you want to drive. It's like there's a bunch of dirt roads there, and it's awesome.
That's an excellent choice.
Yep. And then the other one is 113 and Tamworth. So if you're coming up 16, cut over to 113, like you're going to, I think, the Ossipee Range in that area there in Tamworth. Mm-hmm. That's another great ride to cut over into the Lakes region, and you can make your way over to like the Squam Range, and just driving through those roads there is a great area.
Yeah. Good input. I have a couple. I mean, yeah, for early season, I would still stick with the ride up north towards Whitefield, Lancaster at this point, because there are some beautiful wide open stretches of fields with panoramic views of the Kilkenny Range, the Presidentials. I had mentioned last time the ride through Stark, which I believe is Route 110. That's another beautiful area, which gives you views of the Percy Peaks, and you can take a pit stop over at South Pond, where White Mountain Endurance recently had their event. Beautiful areas up there. Mid-season, I had mentioned, say, Lost River, the Kank, but again, you have to do the outskirts of the Kank and avoid the middle from Lincoln over to Conway. That's a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking more the western side of the Kank towards Benton.
Yeah,
or
like head up to Haverhill. That area there.
Absolutely. And then from there, you can head south onto Route 25, which would be more of a mid to late season ride. 25 is absolutely beautiful. So
yeah, agree. And then you can even cut over onto the you can even cut over to that Grafton Turnpike area from 25 coming south and sort of hug that western New Hampshire border by Vermont, and come into Dartmouth and Hanover that way too.
Oh yeah, that's great. But whatever you do, don't go through the Notch. Franconian Notch on Columbus Day weekend is hell on earth. Whew.
Yeah, it's hell on earth. If you got to go super early. Yeah, hikers know the deal. Stop at Hooksett, get yourself an egg sandwich on the rest stop, and then get moving quick and get there early.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on to hikes here, Stomp. So I have changed my perspective. So I've got a list of early season hikes here, but the new ones that I want to add is there's like 3 of them that I've done that I'm sort of like I didn't include them when we had talked about this previously. So the first one is North and Middle Sugarloaf off of Zealand Road.
Sure.
And the reason why I like these ones for foliage, and I think you've been there too.
Yep.
And I know my friends Bethlyn and Mindy had gone and done some pictures, I think last year as well, is the Sugarloaf sort of puts you, it's a summit, it's almost a 360, it's like a 270 summit, but they also put you into the foliage. So you've got a bunch of summits that are higher than you, but you get the benefit of like the foliage is just like you can reach out and touch it.
Sure.
I think that's amazing. So the Sugarloaf. The other two that I think I want to shout out is I had done Glen Boulder to Isolation last fall, and the views of Pinkham Notch looking in both directions along the road were absolutely stunning.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, and then the last one was Cannon. Cannon blew my mind when we did that finish hike Stomp, when I finished my my lists.
Yeah.
The Terrifying 25, 52 with a view, and the fourth. The views that we got out into Franconia Notch and Cannon Cliffs were like unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, I call that hike the Kill Nobby hike.
Yes, the Kill Nobby hike. Exactly.
Not Kilkenny, Kill Nobby.
Yes. Yeah.
He still talks about that.
Yeah. Well, Nobby is reaching out to me because he wants to finish his Terrifying 25 list, so he's got a payback hike.
Yeah, right. Funny stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, those are Glen Boulder, Isolation, Cannon, and then Sugarloafs were the three that I added to my list. So Stomp, I don't know if you have any new ones that you want to add to your previous list, and then we can go over the old list.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's slightly different. I think I would suggest, an easy to moderate hike for this early time of the foliage season. Unknown Pond, for sure. I think that's 2.5 miles. It's a great hike. You get up to a view of this beautiful pond. It's a tent site, and it looks upon, I believe, the Bulge or the Horn, one or the other. It's a beautiful spot. That's great. I had suggested the Percy's, but that's a little bit more of a moderate hike, a little more advanced. If you're heading south towards the mid time of the foliage season, I would still stick with, I don't know. It's always tricky because I'm crowd adverse. So Mount Pemmy Jawasset Trail up to Mount Pemmy, I still think that's a good one. Great view. One mountain like right on the border of the North Country and sort of, the Sugarloaf area would be Mount Martha. A little bit steep, a little bit more advanced, but it does overlook this beautiful open forest of, the hardwoods, which is what you really want when you're looking for the foliage, not so much the pine forests. That's a good one. You're
talking about Martha Owl's Head?
Correct. So that's near Twin, north of Twin, the town of Twin.
Correct. Yeah. So that's and the view there is amazing because you look. So where Cherry Mountain, Mount Martha, Owl's Head, they're all like the same mountain. That is where Timothy Nash of Nash Stream Forest in the 1700s, like when he was scouting the area, he climbed that, and that's where he saw Crawford Notch.
Oh yeah.
And that's what broke Crawford Notch, is he was like, I see an opening.
Can you imagine?
And you get that view when you climb up there. Remember, we did that hike with Nobby, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing view for foliage.
It sure is. Two others for more south would be what Mrs. Stomp and I just did. That's Orange Mountain, just south of Mount Cardigan, in the Cardigan State Forest. And also back to the Bald Mountain and Mount Crosby Loop. And they're all modest hikes, but they're awesome. Lots of views.
Yeah. It's another modest hike that I haven't done this, but I'm thinking about doing this, and I suspect that this would be a sick hike, is in the foliage season, is Zealand Trail to Zealand Hut and then back. I'm assuming going through those bog bridges and being under the tree cover there would be amazing in the foliage.
Sure. Or from Z Cliff looking towards Mount Carrigain and Whitewall, that whole valley there, into the Pemmy. Isn't that the Pemmy?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. That'd be a good option. But yeah, Zealand's awesome. I miss it up there.
Yeah, we got to get out. We have 5 weekends, Stomp.
Yeah, for sure.
Or 4 now because I got to travel. But the other ones that I had on my list here, Pine Mountain is another one. It's very similar to like Sugarloaf, where it's a summit, but it sort of drops you into a larger group of mountains that you're below, so that you feel like you're really immersed in the foliage. Burnt Meadow in Brownfield, Maine is my local mountain that always has great views. I would add Pleasant Mountain as well in Denmark, Maine. These are western Maine, right near North Conway. And then Green Mountain in Effingham, New Hampshire, which is right by Ossipee, is another one. It's a fire tower hike, but it's got great hardwood forest, and the foliage there is awesome. And you can look down into Lake Ossipee, which is great.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, Stomp. And then a couple safety reminders here. You want to cover those?
Sure. It's the time of the year. Surprisingly, the sun goes down a little earlier, so make sure you have your headlamps. And as Mike says, you need more than one. That's for sure. What's your phrase again?
One is none.
And 2 is too few. Pack 3 or 4, you'll be good. Because then you could always give it to somebody that doesn't have one.
True.
The other thing is, these days are really weird. You know, they're in the 60s and low 70s during the day, but once the sun drops, and it's just cold. So make sure you have your cold weather gear in your pack. You got to start packing for the cold stuff. And I think
it's time to put your knickers on, Stomp.
Yeah. And I'm excited about that, but just be ready for it. You don't want to get yourself in a pickle and be cold out there waiting for help. And then we all know this after this crazy wet summer, but the leaves will be falling, and the rocks underneath will be slippery. Those leaves are super slippery, so just take care with your footing and avoid any unnecessary falls.
Thank you, Stomp. Do you suggest switching to hiking poles if you're not using hiking poles to stay safe?
It's a personal preference.
Okay. I've been switching to poles. So
yeah, how's that going?
It's going well.
Yeah? Okay. Well,
It's going well. That was a big difference when I switched over to poles and I did like the presidential traverse and stuff. It was like a game changer for me.
Yeah. Gave you a little more endurance in the legs, maybe?
Yeah. It just it's taken a little bit of weight off my legs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well.
All right, Stomp. We got a sponsor here.
That was great. So have fun out there with the leaves. Let's talk about Vaucluse gear. Do you have a sweat problem? Sweat can be extremely uncomfortable on the trails. Plus, sweat is a serious risk factor. As your clothes get wet, your core temperature can dramatically fluctuate, and this can result in hypothermia, heat exhaustion, and dehydration. We've got good news at SLASR for you. There's a piece of gear that solves the sweat problem. Vaucluse's ultralight ventilation backpack frame. The frame is a backpack accessory that easily installs on your favorite pack, size 15 liters up to 65 liters, and creates a ventilating airflow gap between you and your back. It's also ultralight, weighing less than a pair of socks and at just over 3 ounces. Whether you're hiking in hot or cold temps, the ultralight ventilation backpack frame is a real game changer when it comes to airflow and ventilation. So visit VaucluseGear.com to order an ultralight ventilation frame today. Use promo code SLASHER to enjoy a $5 discount. And plus, let them know that Mike and Stomp sent you. And with my running, as it gets colder, I've noticed the difference. It's been nice. You know, I still get a little bit wet, just naturally sweating through my wicking shirts, but it's been a lot more comfortable with the ventilation frame on my ultralight.
I never sweat with the Vaucluse.
Okay, yeah. See, that's my default. Sweating is my default position.
Yeah, I'm not a sweaty person, Stomp, unlike you.
I guess you're blessed, man. Oh,
yeah. I'm stinky, but not sweaty.
That's awesome.
to recent search and rescue news. So, lightning storm hits hikers on Half Dome. Thank God this didn't happen when I was there.
Oh, no kidding. I think did we cover the woman that slipped but survived? Or were we just discussing that recently?
We didn't. No, we didn't talk about this. I don't think at all. We just talked about Yosemite.
All right, so this is the same incident. I think you had mentioned it to me by text recently.
Yes, I did. I was like, oh my God, did you just see that? Like, I was just on Half Dome, and then like a week later, some lady slipped.
So, yeah, wait till you see this story. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I checked it out. So it's a story that is in the San Francisco Chronicle, and it sort of details about how, this guy and his friends, they checked the weather before they set off for a hike, and they had like low probability of rain Thursday morning. By the time the group arrived at Subdome, which is like the summit, I'm trying to think of what's the equivalent of Subdome. I sort of feel like if you're doing Madison and Adams, like Madison would be the equivalent of Subdome, and then Adams would be Half Dome. But like it's sort of like that vibe. It's like
makes sense.
The summit before the summit, and that's where you sort of everyone gets settled and they put their gloves on and they look at the cables and they go, "Oh my God, I'm going to die!" And it's way steeper than I thought it was going to be. So anyway, this group had hit Subdome before the final push. It was foggy, but there was no rain, and they climbed up, and as they began the ascent, they could see that a storm was coming in, and they didn't even realize how much trouble they were going to be in. So it's about a 400-foot climb up the cables, and this group arrived around 12:30 p.m. Fog started rolling into the summit, and my experience with the storm systems out there is that they're pretty slow moving. Like the rainstorm that we got hit with when we set up our tents, you could see it coming from a mile away. So I'm assuming that they probably saw the same thing. And, this group of I think there was 3 or 4 of them in there, the fog started rolling in at the summit. So people began to send the cables, including 2 of this guy's friends in this article. And the guy in the article said within 15 minutes, the skies went from overcast to rain and sleet.
It's scary as hell.
I can tell you right now, you do not want to be going anywhere near those cables when it's raining out, but they're stuck on top. So 2 of the friends in this group were descending. They had 2-way radios, and they said that the cables were so congested. I could see this happening because if you've got 50, 60 people up on the summit and they see the rain coming in, they're all going to beeline for the cables, and it only takes one slow person to just screw everybody, or one person freezes up and then everyone's screwed.
Bowling alley?
On the cables.
It sounds like it's like the prime place for a mass casualty event here. It sounds so dangerous.
It really is. Yeah,
Jeez.
It really is. It's super dangerous, but and again, you don't know the experience level of the people that you're dealing with here. And there hasn't been any mass casualty events, but I could absolutely see something happening. So anyway, these friends had 2-way radios, which is interesting. The friend said the cables were so congested that there wasn't a lot of movement. So the guy in this article, his name's Dean, along with another friend, they decided to stay on top and wait it out, which is another dicey proposition because then you're talking about you're completely exposed to lightning. So the 2 friends on the cable, they're heading down. They heard somebody screaming, and the pair could not see what was going on, but they learned that a woman had fallen. So the woman fell down the north side of the mountain, hitting a rock ledge, which stopped her. And then other hikers said that emergency services were called and a helicopter crew came in to rescue. So now these guys are stuck on the cable as a rescue operation's going on.
Unreal.
And then there's 2 more that are stuck on the summit. And they decided to take shelter from the rain in a rock cave, which I don't even know where there is a rock cave on the shelter, but apparently they had 5 of them in there. And I don't even know where there's a cave. I'd be curious. I have to look into that. But anyway, when the storm came in, there was a bunch of people taking shelter. The group hiding in the cave. Lightning struck on the rocks that they used as a shelter, and the lightning went from one of the rocks into one of the person's knees. and it felt like they got hit by voltage. So
Unreal.
I could absolutely see this coming. I don't know where there's a cave there, though. That's interesting.
Huh.
There was a stranger in the cave. That person went unconscious. People were yelling at him to wake up. And it's a whole situation there. So the friend started hitting his chest, and eventually he woke up.
Unreal.
So he was like a zombie, just a shell of a person. So now they got to get this guy down. Some other people had their hair singed when lightning entered them. And, this guy was out for about 20 minutes. So they're in a scary situation.
Yeah. You could say that again.
Yeah. So At the same time, the woman who had slid down the cables, she's getting a rescue worker. Luckily, there had been a worker there to help save another woman who had fallen like a lower amount, like 20, 30 feet. So there's 2 people falling. The whole thing is just sort of a mess. And eventually the 2 people on top were able to get down. But yeah, like you said, Stomp, like this is the worst case scenario. Like if people got hit by lightning while there was, people on the cables, then you're right. You could absolutely see a mass casualty event there.
Yeah, and you're not getting any aircraft up there to help out either.
No, not at all. And I can tell you, when we got hit with that storm, it was only about an hour's worth of rain, but it was coming down pretty good, and we weren't moving out of our tents. And I was sitting there going, geez, I hope I picked the right spot that I'm not going to puddle up on. But
this is a question
scary stuff on Half Dome.
For you or Moose, somebody like Moose, do they have rescue caches littered around the dome at certain places, do you think?
I don't know. I didn't see anything. There's definitely nothing on Subdome and nothing on Half Dome. There's like a lower section below Half Dome or before Subdome where there's the Rangers hang out. And I don't know if they have supplies there. I would imagine that they probably do.
Yeah, it might be interesting to find out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Half Dome, like you said, Stomp, like it is primed for a mass casualty event if bad weather came in quickly. That's the other thing, is because it's a permit system, it's similar to what we deal with in the Whites, because people are investing all this time and effort to go and hike Half Dome because they need to get a permit in order to do it. So for them, they're probably more likely to press to try to go for it. But I would advise people, the backup plan to me is if you're going to hike Half Dome and the weather's not good or you can't get a permit, then Clouds Rest is the way to go because it's a summit right next to it and it's got better views, I think.
Yeah. Somebody just mentioned that online in agreement with you.
Yes.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So anyway, more drama on Half Dome. Next up, Stomp, you pulled this one. This is Asian hornets swarm hikers in New Taipei.
Yes. Not fun. This happens up here in the north occasionally, but 5 people were attacked by Asian hornets while hiking a mountain trail in Rufang, New Taipei City. An ambulance met the hiking.
Fun.
No, not at all. But they show pictures of the damage on the arms and legs, and it's brutal. So,
they also show pictures of the hornets, and these are not like the hornets that you think of that are buzzing around New England. I mean,
no way.
Take the typical hornet that you think of buzzing around like your shutters in the summertime, and then expand that out by maybe 100, and it's basically about the size of your fist, and that's what you're talking about. You're getting stung by these giant hornets.
Yeah, they look. It's hard to say in that picture, but it's certainly the size of like an ice cube or something like that. They're massive. Crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. They're the size of, like, if you put your index and your middle finger together, I would say they're about that size.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a risk out there. It's certainly a risk out here, but not with hornets that are as large as in this case. But it's a very interesting story. 60-year-old woman actually had went into shock because of the bites and required medical assistance transport to the hospital.
Oh my God.
Some
I'd go in.
Yeah, some ended up in the ICU ward with anti-allergy drugs to counter the venom. Holy moly.
Wow. Venom?
Yeah, I guess that's what it says. Yeah, venom from the hornet sting.
I would immediately just pass out.
Whole different world down there. Swarming hornets. Wow.
Yeah.
Anywho.
I'm a bro Stomp. I can do the card game, but if I get stung by a giant hornet, I'm not a bro anymore.
Oh, man. Nope. You're a screaming psychopath.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big baby. All right. So next up here, a hiker rescued on Lonesome Lake Trail. So we got a local news story here. So Saturday, September 23rd, Fish and Game were made aware of an injured hiker on Lonesome Lake. Not a bad place to get injured. You got plenty of support from the AMC crew. Mm-hmm. A 911 call had come through, and then staff from the AMC hut were sent to the location to assess the situation because details were limited. AMC personnel arrived on the scene. So again, another example of, we talk about this, the AMC, we talk about the Cog Railroad, they're all out there willing to help out. So the AMC personnel arrived on scene quickly and determined that a carryout would be necessary due to a significant lower leg injury. So Pemi Valley Search and Rescue was requested along with some conservation officers. So call came in at 3:30. By 4:30, the AMC hut staff had stabilized the injury and had packaged the injured hiker into a rescue litter that's cached at the hut. With the help of hiking companions, the group started carrying the injured hiker down Lonesome Lake Trail until they eventually met up with the rescue team. Shortly before 6 p.m., they were able to make it to the trailhead and get the victim into an ambulance. So 30-year-old hiker from Boston, Massachusetts, she was transported to Littleton Regional Healthcare. So not too bad there.
Yeah.
Apparently, she was looking to take a photo at Lonesome Lake and slipped on a wet rock, falling awkwardly. So it was a 1.2-mile carryout, and it was done pretty quickly due to the response of the AMC staff and the willingness of the hiking companions to initially assist out. So that's not a bad place to have an incident and get carried out. You never want to have that, but that's one of the, if I was going to pick a spot, that would be where I would fall.
Yeah, near any hut.
Exactly. So that's good. The Fish and Game reminds people appropriate footwear should be worn when hiking. Hiking boots that provide support, protection, and traction are recommended. And get yourself a hike safe card.
Boom, and you're good to go.
And that's it. Quiet weekend in search and rescue in New Hampshire, which is great news, Stomp, for you. And this is the end of the show here. I think we want to close out with a reckless plug and some event details for the 11th of November.
Yeah, let's talk about that quick. So a special thanks to our supporter at Reckless Brewing, where you'll enjoy the best food, craft beer, and fun just 15 minutes from Franconia Notch, many 4,000 footers, and less than 10 minutes from the Five Corners. So Reckless is hosting this event. This was their idea, and people will remember that last year we had the Full Conditions release, which was the brew inspired by Ty Gagney's writings, and we had a wonderful time, and the proceeds are going to New Hampshire Outdoor Council. So they wanted to do another event for the release of Full Conditions this fall. So that's essentially the theme of the 11th, and you can expect a live show. So we're going to record live, and it'll be posted the following Friday as usual. And Ty will be present, and the lineup will be, early to mid-afternoon. There'll be a period of music. I'll be playing some music. And then we'll have a full recording, and then we'll have just a meet and greet and hang out after. But this will be an exclusive ticketed event. So they will be selling tickets, and we will give you the link as soon as I receive it. It'll probably be out by the time this episode is out, and you'll have to reserve those seats. And then later in the evening, the place will go public, but you'll not be present unless you have a ticket to get in. So it's going to be a great time. Aside from Ty, there'll be other guests that will be announced too. So we hope to see everybody.
Very exciting. I'm feeling the pressure though, Stomp. I'm nervous.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Just a regular show.
Better not screw this up.
Yeah, you know what happens. If you say Musalak wrong, you're actually going to get eggs thrown at you. So you got to
No. I'll just have to pay Mark $1 every time I say it incorrectly. So I got to meet this guy, Mark. You better show up. Teach me how to pronounce this correctly.
That's great. All right, cool.
All right, Stomp, you did a great job. We learned about fall foliage. We learned about a mystery. We learned about history, and we learned about drama. So,
awesome.
Very good.
In the books. See you next time.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.